Good morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Thursday. I hope it finds you well today. What a difference a day makes. Gold and silver flying this morning as economic data from Canada, all of Canada burning up the East Coast, blanketed in smog. I mean, you're talking about canceling baseball games because it's so thick. The air is so thick you can't breathe. I want to say that New York City had the second worst air in the world. Yesterday, we had jobless claims. I don't know if you can believe it or not. I mean, we get all these numbers. What numbers are right? I don't know. A huge jump in jobless claims, back in the 260,000 range. Bad news out of GameStop. What else? Gosh, there's so many things. Commercial real estate. Woo, man, do we have some updates on that? Listen, we don't make things up here. When we tell you that the vast majority of commercial real estate loans are interest only, that's the facts. And we'll update you on how bad. It's even worse than I thought. I knew it was bad. It's even worse than that. 800-951-0592. That is our toll-free number. AllAmericanGold.com is the website. And three of my favorites were out giving updates. Just go to the website. They're 1, 2, 3 right in a row. Stan Druckenmiller, Jeff Gunloch, Ray Dalio. Get yourself educated. I know, listen, it's summertime. The kids are out of school. Hey, we're going to go on vacation, right? We're going to go to the beach, or we're going to go to the amusement parks and all that. I get it. I get it. But believe me when I tell you, you're going to be so much better off preparing now than when it actually starts to unfold. It's not like we're talking about, in the next 12 to 18 months. No, we're not talking that. Before this year is over, this is going to look much, much different than it appears to look right now. Right now we're in that, things are still okay. It's slower. It's slowing, but we're still hanging in there. The hanging in there is what is going to disappear. Matter of fact, Jason, today, Europe had some revisions in their numbers. The EU, technically in recession right now.
Maybe they'll change the rules on recession and say it's not one.
Well, that's what we did. I mean, I think they will. It's different this time.
Oh, well, you keep moving the marker down farther and farther. I guess it doesn't really matter. You just got to actually look at the data and determine what's going on, which is what we do. Okay, they have the numbers. We have to go off the numbers they give us, Joe. But if they're going to change the definition of what those numbers are, then what do you do, right? You just you got to be smart and figure it out outside their numbers in some respect. Because I have a feeling that's not going to be a recession when all things are said and done, and unless they just keep having bad quarters from here on out. But we'll see, I guess, when the next quarter gets reported.
Yeah, so started off today with initial jobless claims. So remember, like a month ago, we spiked up to 265, and we're like, uh-oh, right? That's kind of, and, you get above that 270, you got to start to worry. And then all of a sudden, a couple of weeks of that, and then, there was fraud in Massachusetts, and they said, all those numbers were wrong. And it was back in the 230s. This morning, we're back in the 260s, 261,000. I looked. Massachusetts did not have some huge, outrageous numbers, so it can't be fraud in Massachusetts this time. But this was about 30,000 more than what was expected, and that's at that range, right? When you get above 250, you start to get worried. That 270 to 300,000 that's when the flashing red light happens. But this is just a number, at least for a day, Jason, that says, hey, the Fed can pause based upon jobless claims being at 260,000, where yesterday the markets got caught off guard when Canada came out and surprised everybody with a rate hike. And I think a lot of people were like, well, because Canada had already been on a pause and half of the country's on fire apparently, I don't know, and they were expecting a pause and didn't get one. Today's kind of the opposite news. So today's news is, hey, based on the data we saw today, the Fed can take a break.
Yeah, they could take a break, and as we were talking this morning, it's hard to tell daily what the Fed's choice will be. I think it's later this month, Joe, or when the next rate hike or rate pause decision will be. So I think anything's possible, but I think the fact that there doesn't seem like there's a big emergency economically in the mainstream news cycle, to me, means rate hike is probably on the table right now.
Well, we're only a week away. It's June 13th and 14th. We're only a week away. So June 13th and 14th is the next scheduled meetings for the Federal Reserve. So when we sit there and we look at what could be, then we'll have a meeting in July, at the very end of July. And then August there will be no meeting, and then September, October, December is the rest of the schedule for the central bank. Jason and I will be back right after the break. We're going to update you on just how many commercial real estate loans are interest only. You're not going to believe it. And what did Jeff Gunlatt say you better get ready for? We'll be right back. $800-951-0592. Joe and Jason here on this Thursday. The Dow is up 70. The S&P's up 15. The Nasdaq's up 100. Right? Kind of think about that. Is this really where we want to be? Wait a minute, we had bad news on jobless claims, but that's good for the debt markets. Gold's up 26, 1968. Silver, man, this is, Silver's that wild little brother. He's the wild child. He's up over 80 cents, $24.35. This market recap brought to you by our friends over at Y-Refi. You hear Jason, we talk about them and talk about them and talk. This, it's key. It's paramount. It's here. You've got to get ready. Because, and again, it's not to scare. That's not what we're trying to do. I'm telling you what's coming. It's already happening. Bankruptcy filings for publicly traded companies. They're double from last year. Doubled. It's at the highest rate going back to 2010. Think about it. More publicly traded companies are filing bankruptcy now than when COVID happened. More companies are filing for bankruptcy now. Where, people forget. Remember the oil bust? Remember there was a day oil went below zero. What was that like? I forget what it was, 2016, 2017. I forget when it was. No, more bankruptcy filings now. I mean, really going back to the financial crisis, it is more important than ever to not have your money in these banks, to not have your investments with these banks. Check out our friends at Y-Refi. Invest, YRefi.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com. Or call them at 888-Y-REFI-24, up to 10.25% return. Here's the great part. You don't have to not open your email. I don't know if anyone sends paper statements anymore. Hey, I wonder how my 401k is doing. I wonder how my, you know what, I don't even want to look at it. Yeah, because you're going to know why. It's going to look the same every single month. Check them out, 888-Y-REFI-24. The funny part in the jobless claims number today, Jason, here's what was hilarious. They actually said, okay, Ohio, California, and Minnesota, they had the highest numbers, but they did note that nothing looked irregular. So I guess they're trying to tell us, okay, this time we really mean it. There really was this many job losses. But of course, we'll have to wait and see. But commercial real estate, Jason, you have an update, because I've been telling everybody, listen, these guys don't pay their mortgages like we do. You know, the small business guy, like I own my suite that I'm in here. Jason and I own the suite that we're in Fort Lupton, right? We pay a mortgage, right? And our mortgage is what? It's principal and interest, right? We're working at having them paid off. That's not how big companies operate, Jason, is it?
No, that's not how even medium-sized companies sometimes operate. Even small companies, they borrow money and they have to get the loans that make the most sense. And some guys try to stay on top of things and pay down their debt, and those businesses tend to struggle a little more because they're being responsible. And then other businesses are trying to grow as fast as they can, and they go heavier into debt. And I'm looking for it here. I might actually play the clip from the guy I was watching, Michael Cohen, but he was doing some reports about commercial mortgage-backed securities and the difference that in 2013, 10 years ago, 51% of these loans were interest only. And that's going to be kind of a common thread, because just like Joe said, a lot of these businesses, they'll do interest only. It doesn't matter what. They're just trying to grow, and this is the smallest payment they have to make on their debt.
Now,
as of 2021, though.
Right. Well, before we update the number, this was 2013. So we were coming off the financial crisis, and still, even then, hey, 20% down, all this stuff. Over half of the loans were interest only. And remember, we were in what year? I don't know, 5 of 0%. So they were probably getting loans for like 3% and only paying the interest. And think about how small that payment would be, and hoping that these things would appreciate. But, Jason, the number's gotten a lot bigger since then. So 51%, let's call that the low water mark. Where are we today?
Well, as this was reported on Zero Hedge. So, Joe, you can look this up, and I think it came out either yesterday or today. 88% as of 2021. So right before the inflation came in, and right as all the free money was being given out, here comes 88% of all mortgage-backed commercial loans are interest only. Yeah, I got that. Let's see if I can just about 30 seconds of Michael Cohen. Listen to him talk about it.
Well, everyone. In 2008, it was the residential mortgage-backed securities, but in 2023, it's going to be these commercial mortgage-backed securities that lead to a new financial crisis.
I love his reaction.
Look what's about to happen. So landlords face $1.5 trillion bill for interest-only commercial mortgages. Wow, interest-only loans. What could possibly go wrong, everyone? Interest-only loans as a share of new commercial mortgage-backed securities issuance increased to 88% in 2021. That's up from 51% in 2013, according to TREP. Did you hear that, everyone? 88% of new commercial mortgage-backed securities that they're issuing are interest-only.
I mean, you can hear it in his voice, Joe, and this guy's not super animated, but 88%. I mean, that's not too far away from all loans are interest only in commercial, Joe. It shows me that nobody, part of this is because of trying to get things going and pay the small payment. Part of it almost feels like some of these businesses did this because they didn't know what was going to happen, Joe. Maybe they knew, hey, I'm going to get in something that I can walk away from.
This is going to be huge because, like I said, it's a bigger problem than just it's interest only. This is very much reminiscent of housing, because housing, right? Remember, everyone interest only, no money down, right? And pick your payment, and then you had two things happen. Well, really, you really didn't. You only had one thing happen. The housing, the values went down, right? The interest rates really didn't go up. The values just went to the floor. Here in commercial real estate, Jason, we've got a two-headed problem. We've got, hey, there are areas. Listen, let's not lie, right? There are some areas where maybe commercial real estate is hanging in there. Maybe not necessarily going up, but it's hanging in there. The vast majority of the country, that is not true. Right? The vast majority of the country, commercial real estate, and you hear us, we say it every week now. We're talking about buildings, Jingle Bell, right? Yesterday it was the first and fourth largest hotels in San Francisco. Now, here's the keys back, right? All of it interest-only stuff. But now you've got two problems. Hey, interest rates are now up, and the building's worth less. It's a double whammy.
And there's inflation to make everything more expensive all around, right, Joe? And in this report that Michael Cohen, he covered what you had brought to the air yesterday about the San Francisco hotels. He started with that and then pivoted to this 88% number, which pretty strong little two-headed monster there to let his viewers know, hey, you might want to find a better way to take care of yourself, and we do that with gold and silver, Joe. You gotta get yourself protected against this stuff.
And this is global. Listen, Goldman Sachs making it be known, hey, we've got this shopping mall in Ireland. It's worth we bought it for about $700 million. It ain't worth that. We're trying to sell it. If not, we're going to dump it. But again, it just shows you the problems. Of course, we mentioned how Europe has slid into recession, whether they want to admit it or not. Jason, this is going to be a big problem because who holds this at the end?
That's
right?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Who holds the loans? Who holds the loans?
Right. That's where the problem is going to be because guess what? Some of these big commercial landlords are doing. Hey, yeah, I'm the landlord. I don't actually hold the note. I'm the guy that's got to pay on the note. I'm not paying anymore. Right? Here. Have the keys back. See you later. We know that over 50% of all commercial real estate loans are in these regional banks and lower. Right? So that's where we know, and remember what Weiss was saying yesterday about the ratings of these banks. This commercial real estate will push over 3,000 banks into what we'll call technically insolvent.
Well, and Joe, I think the ones that are the most susceptible are pretty obvious. It's the ones that have the low interest treasuries and bonds, and the ones that also, on top of that, are holding the bad commercial loans. I mean, those are the ones that are going to fall, right? I mean, they're the ones that are their pot is empty, so to speak. Maybe you've got don't have a lot of low interest bonds, but you hold a lot of the commercial loans, or maybe you hold a lot of the bonds and low interest stuff. But if you do one or the other, right? But how many of these banks, Joe, are really gambling and have all of this stuff all over their balance sheet? Those banks are going away. There's no way they survive this thing. That could be hundreds of banks.
Yeah, it's going to be just terrible. Stan Druckenmiller yesterday was out and saying that he expects a hard landing for the U.S. economy. Don't buy this pause. Because that's what I called it. We hit a pause. Right? Things were getting worse. And then they kind of flattened out. And then all of a sudden the data got screwy. And now I think, Jason, we're getting ready again to take this next leg down. The probabilities would suggest, this was Druckenmiller, that Silicon Valley Bank, Bed Bath & Beyond, and others are just the tip of the iceberg. Saying that there's recession, no recession, the default rates are going to rise and rise considerably. And this is what we're telling you. We already know. These companies already know every single month, X amount of these commercial real estate loans come due. I borrowed 5 years ago, and I didn't pay any principal. I'm going to give you the keys back. That seems to be the answer, Jason, is here's the keys back. Now that puts huge pressure on these banks because all of a sudden they're going to get stuck with hundreds of millions of dollars, and everyone's going to see it, and they're going to go, oh, wait a minute. Where's that property? Oh, how old's that building? Oh, you owed How much on it? Oh, you lent $700 million on that property? Yeah, we think it's worth $100 million. That's a $600 million loss literally overnight.
Right, and the Federal Reserve and the biggest banks, the biggest investors in the world, they're watering. Their mouth is watering for this thing to crash because they're going to buy all this. Just because the loans are bad doesn't mean the property is bad. And just like you said, some areas are doing better than others. Well, that doesn't mean that if you're in a good area, if you got bad loans are bad loans. You fail in a good area, someone's going to swipe that piece of property up and do good things with it, and it's going to be cheap. It's going to be cheap. And this is what the big players do, Joe. They're prepared. They may not be huge gold and silver buyers, but they're prepared, right, Joe? They're prepared in many ways. And this is what happens. I mean, this is how business is done from the larger levels. The big fish like to swallow the small fish, and we're getting ready for a feeding frenzy, Joe. We're going to have less small business than ever before in the next couple of years.
Well, here's Jeff Gunlatch. Now, of course, he's looking at data we don't see, right? Which is the non-headline data. I'll tell you what he says the data looks like to him when we return. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason will be back right after the break.